Good morning. I know it's getting close to noon, but we're still in morning. And I am just popping on here this morning because I have 25 interviews on my calendar as of this morning to interview people on failure. And I wanted to pop on and just talk about this topic a little bit more and some realizations that I had, maybe not realizations, but some thoughts I wanted to share with all of you today. So I think most of the time failure is not some big event that happens. I think that it's anywhere we try and don't get it right. So Webster defines failure as not hitting the goal. And so I think that we've just become so divorced from the word failure that we can't even identify it most of the time. And we're so uncomfortable with it as a society, as a culture, that we won't call it what it is. And I think that we're not doing ourselves or others justice if we aren't willing to use the proper definition. And when we learned to ride a bike, we fell, we wobbled. When we learned to walk, we fell down and we had to get back up. We didn't take our first step and keep walking. I mean, maybe there's some of us out there who were able to just walk, right, and get it right, but that's not necessarily the way it works. So I don't think that failure is always some big event that happens. It's the little things. It's we set the intention to do something and we didn't do it. It is the falling down and getting back up. It's not hitting the goal that we wanted to hit. Now, failure is not necessarily bad. The exception to that is when lives are on the line. So NASA, I was reminded yesterday by a friend of mine who gets to work with, she gets to do women's leadership work, and she was working with women from NASA. And there is a motto, a slogan, where in NASA they say failure is not an option. And it's because lives are on the line there, right? I mean, when NASA doesn't get it right, people die. And that's not okay. That's not the type of failure I'm talking about. There are times where we cannot fail because failure means really horrific things. But most of the time, the failure that we're talking about is that we're holding something in our heart and we want to go after it, and maybe we didn't get to where we intended to go. Failure always means learning. Even if it is something horrific, failure is always a learning experience. So I did my first interview today with the beautiful and intelligent and Abigail. And Abigail Dowd, I asked her what her occupation was, and she said singer, songwriter, musician, artist, creator. And I added space holder because she is good at holding space. And she defined failure as missing the mark, right? And she said that also that the definition of failure is also the word sin. And that sin is not some terrible thing, but it's what we have assigned to it that is not great. And Abigail talked to me about, she said there was a time when all of the things that she was winning at were actually failings to listen to her inner voice. whoa, like, when have you done that? When have you failed to listen to your inner voice? I mean, that's a pretty damn powerful thing. That inner voice, I mean, it's still and it's small and it requires getting still to pay attention to. But one of the things that I'm super curious about in this journey as I'm talking about failing, I think that people that are light bearers, I think that people who become successful actually have a process, probably not even a process that they're conscious of processing failure. And so I was asking her about her process, and she said she had to go backwards to go forward. And so that looked like, she said getting somewhere safe. And for her, somewhere safe was not being around those who had a judgment on her that she bought into. So she had to go somewhere completely different and safe. And she couldn't be around anyone who had already written a script about who she was that she believed. And then she had to grieve. She had some things in her life that she needed to grieve. And she had to allow herself to grieve. And one of the things that Abigail was telling me about, she said that during this process of processing failure, not only did she have to go backwards, she had to retrieve I'm quoting her, she had to retrieve the parts of herself. Well, she said it like this. She said, I had to retrieve the parts of myself that I left behind and kill off the parts of myself that weren't mine. Ooh, that's deep. I feel like this is really interesting. Is there something in your life that you feel like you have failed at? And are you listening to, Charisse, yes, I'm with you. It is very powerful, right? Like, where are we not listening to that still small voice within us that really informs us and tells us what's true for us? Because that is failing. And when we see that we have not hit the mark, sinned against ourselves, so to speak, or just not hit the intention that we had intended to hit, that's failing. It's okay. Let's normalize it. What is your process for understanding it? And when it is something really big, when you realize that you have failed at something really, really big, and maybe that's not honoring your own truth. Shout out to Jeannie Duncan on this one. She's writing a book on truth and honoring your own truth. But like thinking about that as what parts of ourself do we need to go back and retrieve, bring back in? And are there parts of ourselves that have been lodged in our souls, in our hearts, in our psyches, like a computer program, like a virus to a computer program that we need to go and kill off because they're not really ours. They're not supposed to be on this journey with us. So, all right, one interview down of the 25 that I have on the table, and I have some major food for thought. I'm curious what this brings up for you, and I'm curious about how you think this plays into failure and how it informs your journey. So that's what I'm processing. That's what I'm thinking about. I have one more interview this afternoon on failure that I'm really looking forward to. And I've got lots of interviews coming up on this particular topic. I really want to take you all along for this ride with me as I am working on this. So thank you so much for being here, and I'll look forward to sharing more with you soon. Tag a friend, please. If you think someone else needs to hear this, if someone else needs to listen, tag a friend, ask them to follow along. I appreciate you all so much, and I'll look forward to talking to you soon.